Welcome everybody, my name is Jeff St Laurent. This is the live Tuesday call and we are rolling forward with the new year, and today's topic is creating a plan for the last quarter of the year as we roll into September, and we got 4 months left before 2018. So we're looking to say, hey, you know what, no matter what time of year it is, it's always good to have a plan for our business and to create that structure so it keeps us focused. So that's what we're going to be covering today. We had some good conversation with some of the people that called in live and to kind of get their thoughts around some specific things that they want answered. If you're listening to the recording of this, that's always the advantage of calling in live. I know you can't always make it, but if you ever get a chance to, it'd be great to hear your voice and also kind of get some of your thoughts, and that always gives some input and direction into where I go with my education on my Tuesday calls. With that being said, before we get rolling, like I said, I do record all my calls. I do post them in my university every Friday on my website, sellingcoaching.com. So if you go there and then go to the university, you can check that. I have a lot of great education over there for you. I help coaches transition to a full-time business, focusing on that selling and marketing aspects, so creating those plans for you, walking you through those aspects. And also on my website, sellingcoaching.com, right on the homepage, I have a great resource for you, the Ultimate Startup Guide for New Coaches. So you can find that right on the homepage. It's kind of under the part that says where I claim to give away my dog. So you can always check that out. And what that also does, it puts you on my email community, and I highly advise you to be there, not just so you can get more emails, but because I want you to start to notice and understand how I use email in terms of with my marketing and building a community. So that's so important that we do that as coaches. So if I can be that role model for you, I'd love to be able to do that. And then at the top of my website, sellingcoaching.com, you'll see an invitation over to my private Facebook group. So you can definitely go ahead and check that out. A great platform for not only for us to interact a little bit more, but also it's a great avenue for you to be able to speak your message, whether you're developing it or you've honed it already. I love using that platform for the interaction, and then obviously use a lot of video for helping coaches become comfortable speaking their message. So please go ahead and check that out. I'd love to have you over there if you're not already. And then before we get rolling, I am available for a one-on-one and group mentoring. And so if you're in a position where you just feel like you really need some guidance, whether you're frustrated or you're just starting off and just want to streamline the process as much as possible, you can just go to the Work With Me page on sellingcoaching.com. Just go to the bottom, there's a little form there, fill that out. We can create just a relaxed discussion and kind of see where it goes and take it from there. But with that being said, let's get into the topic today around creating a plan for the last quarter of the year. And like I said earlier, it's whether it's the last quarter of the year, the beginning quarter, or whatever the case may be, is we want to have a plan. So one of the first things, and you'll hear me say this a lot with my calls and my education, is ultimately when it comes to creating a plan, think of it like this: is we're developing a routine, we're developing structure. And with entrepreneurship, here's the thing, and for those of you that haven't been entrepreneurs before, and you've only been employees, here's something that while it appeals to a lot of people, see, what appeals to people about entrepreneurship is like, whoa, I can make my own schedule, right? I can make my own schedule. I can do what I want, when I want. If I want to take a day off, it's like, yeah, okay, sure. That's a luxury and a privilege. How about that of entrepreneurship? However, the challenge that comes along with that is creating the discipline to have a structure and routine. And I always like to say, like, you need to treat your business like a job, right? You need to have business hours. You need to know when you're going to get in your office and when you're going to leave your office. And they're both just as important as one another, because you can also never leave your office, especially when you get a lot going on. So having that structure is so vital. And so if we're going to create any type of a plan, and I want to touch upon a few different elements today: a financial plan, a health plan, a marketing plan, specific to our business. It all goes into that whole structure and that whole routine. One of the things I like to say is that we have to create our own schedule, and there's no boss, if you will, saying, hey, you need to be in at this time and leave at this time and do this, this, and this. So what we do is we want to use our calendar and create a schedule. We want to create those business hours, like I said. We want to develop that routine, but then the schedule becomes our boss. So before I talk about any specifics today, we need to create that schedule so the schedule becomes the boss. The schedule begins to tell us where we need to be and what we need to be doing, or in other words, what hat we should be wearing. With entrepreneurship, it's really important we understand what hat we're wearing. So if it's outside of entrepreneurship, right? Is this my health hat? Is this my parenting hat? Is this my, you fill in the blank? Is this my fun hat? Where are we doing at those times outside of our business hours? But then even in our business hours, I like to break our business hours into 4 different categories. And this is all starting to go into the structure and this plan we're talking about for the last quarter of the year. But the 4 different periods of time, if you will, in our business, right? We would have our marketing time, and I'll briefly go over each one after this, but a marketing time, then we have follow-up time, then we have client time, and then we have administration time. And so and that's literally in order of importance. So the first 2, marketing and follow-up time, they're definitely of equal importance, if you will. But marketing time is that's me putting my message out there, right? It's me getting in front of and developing and creating an audience. That's our number one role. I always say, when we say we want to grow a business, growing a business doesn't necessarily mean monetarily. Yes, that's obviously a component, but to grow a business, you've got to grow your audience, right? So that's our marketing time, getting in front of new people, like some of you listening to the call today, maybe some of the people listening to the recording. A person hears this, whether it's live or the recording for the first time, and it's their first exposure to me. Hopefully, I'm giving a lot of great usable information. So they go like, wow, I like this person. I want to subscribe. I want to be a part of his group. I want to be a part of his email list. I want to be a part of his circle and consume my education, right? That's building an audience. You're building it one person at a time, right? That's our marketing time. The follow-up time, that follow-up time is then now we've gotten interested leads, whether people emailing us or we're creating conversations. So we're following up with them, creating conversations, finding out where there might be interest because of a need and or timing that we might have potential clients and or for our products or services that we offer. And then there's our client time, which is obviously just client calls. and the reason why I rank that 3, if you will, in number of importance is because, well, if you got a scheduled call, you don't just blow off a client, right? So it's not like I have to schedule them. So it's servicing those clients, and then there's administration time, and that's invoicing, paperwork, just emails, just you name it, stuff like that. And that's the stuff that kind of like has to get done, but you can find that and do that whenever it's needed to. So again, this all goes into the big picture of creating your plan. If we're going to have anything, we've got to know in those business hours when we're doing what. And so you can schedule your clients. Great, that's client time. But when are you going to have that time for marketing? And moving forward, we can. And if you're thinking about specific things that you're going to be doing for your coaching business, or you have to figure them out, you've got to make sure at a minimum every day. And this is, I don't care if you're working, if you have 8 hours available for your coaching, or maybe you've got a full-time job, or whatever other responsibilities, you're a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, whatever it is. If you've got an hour every day for your coaching business, you need to have a percentage of that, if not hopefully all of it, for your marketing time, especially as you're starting off. You might not need any follow-up time because you don't have anyone to follow up with. You need to start just getting your message out there. So it's very important we schedule that time as well. So this all goes into the whole thing is when we talk about creating a plan, it's creating this routine from this schedule, and that schedule becomes our boss, and it tells us what we need to do. Like I had a call before this Tuesday call today. I've got a client after this, and then from 2 to 3 o'clock, before I go get my son at school, I've got some things listed. I'm gonna call someone up. I'm gonna do some invoices. I'm gonna prep the Tuesday call for later this week, and I've got 3 or 4 things listed off. So I know as soon as I hang up that phone, the schedule's the boss. It's gonna tell me what to do. If I don't have that, guess what happens? I can hang up after that call. I got an hour and 15 minutes before I go get my son at school. That can get eaten up very quickly with me. Oh, I'll just check email, or I need something to eat, or I'm thirsty, or I got to go to the bathroom. And then next thing you know, I didn't accomplish anything in that hour. And guess what? No one's mad at me. I'm not getting fired, right? But the difference is I'm not growing my audience and I'm not getting paid. So I need to have that structure, and that's going to dictate it. So before you start thinking about, oh, I'm going to create this elaborate plan for the last quarter of the year, etc., if you notice where I'm starting off with the fundamentals. The fundamentals is we need to establish our business hours. We need to understand, if you will, the 4 components where our time segmented in those hours. And like I said, as you start off, you don't have any clients. Well, you don't have any client time. Don't worry about it. There's not much admin time, or in fact, sometimes in the beginning, it feels like there's a lot of administration time because I've got maybe my website, or I got to get my blogs up there, or there's that behind the scenes work. But no, none of that stuff is as important as you just maybe writing something and posting it somewhere. Creating a video or doing a Facebook Live and getting it out there. Even if you don't know what your message is yet, it's starting to craft it and articulate it so you can discover and find your message. That's the important piece right there. And that's why I use my Selling Coaching Facebook group as an example. Great avenue, especially if you're nervous, use it in that safe community. Yeah, there's about 1,500 people in there, just over that, but they're all coaches and it's a safe environment. No one sees it outside that Facebook group, so it's a great avenue to start. But the whole point is to start with these fundamentals. Don't get wild and crazy with your plans and, oh my God, I'm gonna have 15 clients by the end of the year and things like that. Like, start with some of the basics so you know what you can do each and every day, and then say, okay, my marketing time. Okay, well, what do I do in my marketing time? And then if you don't know what you need to do there, then let's start to figure those steps out. But at least start to create that routine and the schedule so you have that, all right? Especially as the holidays come. So whatever religion you are, whatever you celebrate, etc., as we get towards the end of the year, Thanksgiving, especially in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, wherever you're at listening to this, right? There's different holidays, different things. But at the end of the year, it has holidays for some point for everybody, right? Especially the new year. So the biggest thing and the most challenging thing, especially around that time of the year, and really of the next 4 months, right? We got September, October, and then midway through November, and then it's like literally the next 6 weeks through, and like maybe in the first week in January, it almost is like you hit that, like the top of that roller coaster, and once you go over the top, it's just like, whoosh, and next thing you know, the ride's over, and it's a new year. So we've got to, I'm advising you to really develop, if you haven't already, or even if you have, fine-tune that routine that I'm talking about there, that schedule of your hours and things like that. So that especially when you head into the holiday season, whatever that looks like for you, find out when those are and plan accordingly. So like I already know, like I've looked at it, for instance, I celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving over here in the US. So it's like I know, all right, Thanksgiving's on a Thursday, right? So that week is going to be a different week. The week after that, we can hit it hard just like a normal week. But then, like Christmas and New Year's, I believe they fall on a Monday, right? So I've got my Tuesday calls on a Tuesday. So it's like I'm already thinking about, okay, what's going to happen through that time? Because I want to keep going with my business. I want to keep going with my structure. And if you have that structure ahead of time, you're more likely to know what your focus is. So this way, especially when stuff's going on and people are coming over and they're traveling, etc. And this could be for any time of the year, even summer. Summer's another, right? Another situation where you've got to deal with, especially if you're like where I'm up on the Northeast, right? It's very different, especially with the season change and everyone's traveling, especially through the last part of August. So those are all things that no matter what time of year it is, it might represent different challenges for you. And that's why I'm taking so much time initially, is to start to stress the aspect of that schedule. The other aspect I'll talk about there is where I said, creating a health plan, etc. And those of you that know, I used to be in the health and fitness personal training industry for good almost 2 decades, as I transitioned to a full-time coach, and before that. And so I'm not going to go into that in terms of, you got to start a diet and exercise program. What I will say is this, as an entrepreneur, in order to function and focus and stay consistent with things, you being in great health, or at least working towards that, is going to be a big help or aid in your success. So without having to go into, hey, here are the specifics and here's what you need to do, etc. If you're not incorporating any type of exercise and you're just eating healthy or any of those routines, especially if you've got you're working from a job and then you're coming home and you're putting in coaching hours at night, it's just like, so when do you eat? When do you want to plan even if you ate Twinkies all day, it's just like eat them, at certain times so you're having some food. The whole point is just making sure you're eating healthy the best you can, and eating in somewhat normal intervals, not eating huge gaps in between, right? how are you expected to focus at work? If I'm in my office for 5 or 6 hours, how am I expected to focus if I have a breakfast, or maybe if I don't even have a breakfast? I roll out of bed, I brush my teeth, do whatever I do, and then I just jump into my office, and then I don't eat anything, for the next 5 or 6 hours. How am I expected to focus and function? Or if I never exercise, right? So it's like I'm just throwing that at you to consider it, because I know for myself, it's a huge part of my routine. The reason I begin most of my days at 11 a.m. is because I have my son in the morning, I drop him off at school, and then I go to the 9:15 workout. I come home, I shower, and I'm ready to go by 11 o'clock, and that's when I start my day. It's later than I'd want to, but I know at the end of my day, I'm not gonna go to the gym. I've tried it, and I bag it more than often than not. I need to do it in the beginning, and it allows me to start off, and I'm much more focused and ready for my day, and I feel better because I've had my workout in. That's my routine, but I'm just showing you that, and also for yourself and the entrepreneurs I've worked with. I can't tell you, I don't think I've met a successful entrepreneur, and I don't just mean that monetarily wise, but that didn't have some form of health routine. And I don't care if it's 5 minutes of meditation and a 10-minute brisk walk in the morning with their dog or something like that. I'm not talking, hey, you have to hit the gym for an hour. I'm just asking for you, what's your routine that's going to get you centered and that's going to get you feeling good about yourself and healthier so you can focus as an entrepreneur? Huge element to that success. So I'll just say it right there and say, hey, what's your fitness plan? What's your fitness routine that works into that schedule? And now, because as I said, I help coaches transition to a full-time business, I will talk about a financial plan, right? And then I'll wind it up today talking about more of a specific marketing plan, and then we'll open the call up to give you a feel for where we're going. But from a financial plan, this is a huge aspect, if we're going to become a full-time coach. And no matter what your situation looks like, especially if you have a job right now, and at some point you want to transition out of that job, we need to start thinking about, and this is where I find the majority of coaches, I'll just say 9 out of 10 coaches that I work with when I do one-on-one mentoring with them, even in my groups that I do, is that usually 9 out of 10 coaches, they've thought about their finances, but they haven't really looked at them or made a financial plan with them. In other words, it's like, well, how much, what's the bottom line number you need? If whether you're living by yourself and you're on your own, or whether you're married and have kids and whatever, primary breadwinner, non-primary breadwinner, whatever you are, right? What are your minimum financial obligations every month? Like the bottom line minimum number. And like, you need to know that, right? You need to know that. And you can't say, oh, about $5,000, or oh, about, you fill in the blank. Like, I want you to get that number like as accurate as possible. Like you want to know that. And what I found is, in doing this myself and with my clients, and in doing that, what you're going to do is you're going to find a lot of expenses that you have that you're like, wow, I didn't realize I had that. Or like, ooh, we don't really need this anymore. Or we don't ever watch Netflix. And I don't care if it's, $15 a month or $150 a month, because maybe wow, if we use this money, we could pay off the car. And next thing you know, we can, shift a few things around. And all of a sudden, instead of paying that every month, you can start saving that money every month. The whole point is that we got to create some type of, I'll say it like this, either a transition fund, meaning I'm creating people will call it a cash reserve, for instance, but in this case, it's a different type of cash reserve where most people should have people will say either a 3 or 6 month cash reserve. So if all of a sudden you're earning no money for whatever reason, you can sustain, your living expenses for a minimum of, let's say, 6 months. And that's typically the recommended number. I would say the majority of people don't have a 6-month cash reserve. But the point is this is kind of like a transition reserve of, okay, so as I start to create this transition, whether I'm whittling down my hours from my job to my business, or just cutting it off and just going full on to my business, I've got that financial cash reserve buffer. Because with entrepreneurship, it's not like, oh, I'm going to earn X amount of thousands of dollars every 2 weeks, and it's in a paycheck, and I'm going to get it direct deposit, and it's going to be the same number every time. Like, there'll be months you can earn lots of money, and there's months that you can earn almost no money. I can remember back some months I had a really good month. I did $25,000. This is a while ago. I did one, and the next month I earned $3,000. That's how it happens sometimes. I had a big event, And that's the ebb and flow of entrepreneurship. So whatever the numbers are, it's having that financial reserve and be able to budget that money as well. But then also it's creating that financial buffer for yourself, because maybe, you know what, maybe you don't ever have to use that, and that's great if you don't. But whether it's funds you need to use for your business, you're hiring a mentor coach, you're doing a website, you fill in the blank. There's not a lot of costs in our business, thankfully. However, there are some costs. But then whether it's living expenses, it's what's my financial plan. I did a call in my university that goes into that with a lot more detail in terms of the things you need to look for. If you just go to sellingcoaching.com under the university, and then in the search bar type in like financial plan or creating a financial plan, that call should pop up. And if you want to listen to that one, that will, if that's a particular interest to you, that's a very, very important one. I don't recommend doing this leap, if you will, from to a full-time coach without really taking a look at that. So without the more specifics, I'll allow that call if it's of interest to you to check that out. But when we talk about the last quarter of the year, it's you want to start thinking about that financial plan if you haven't already. That's a huge aspect to that as well. So with that being said, let's take this into the last component here in terms of this plan for the year. And again, always thinking about that foundation is we got to start with that foundation of that schedule and our business hours, et cetera, what's going on in and out of them. But now we talk about, let's say, our marketing plan, or if you will, if I go a little more general and say, okay, what's my plan to grow my business? But we want to get more specific than that, so you have a direction. With that being said, I want you to think about it like this. And when I work with my mentoring clients, one of the things I help people do is I help them create a marketing plan, a marketing structure. And this is a marketing structure that's the same week in, week out. So in other words, they know exactly what they're doing each and every day throughout the week. And each week they do it, it's exactly the same. And that structure never changes no matter what's going on. All right, that's the marketing plan of that structure I'm talking about. There might be some things outside of that regular structure, like an event they're doing or they're hosting, etc. That's something different. But that marketing structure, that's the one thing that I want you to, if you haven't already, to start to develop. I want you to start to develop. As an example, just a quick overview of what I do with like my live Tuesday calls. Right, that's my marketing structure. That's what I do. And if you followed me, if you're just starting off, or if you've been following me for a while, you'll see this is what I do. That's why I said, hey, on my website, sellingcoaching.com, get that free gift of mine, the Ultimate Startup Guide for New Coaches, not just for the actual content itself, but I want you to get on my email list. I want you to get on my community because I want you to see how I use it. I want you to see how I do it every week. I send three emails a week, consistently every single week, week in and week out. I don't care if I'm on vacation or what's going on. Yesterday was Labor Day in the US, still sent an email out, right? And it all revolves around my weekly live event, which is my live Tuesday call, right? And so I send my email structure out around that. I send them out on Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays. I do my live call on every Tuesday. I record it. I post it at my university, send an email out on Friday. I do my social media calendar around that each day, creating my events, so forth and so on. So that's my marketing structure that I do week in and week out. That's something that if you haven't done already that you want to be able to come up with. That's obviously what I can obviously help you with, but I give you a brief example of what that's like. That marketing structure creates a routine in our marketing that happens every week without fail. And that's so important that we understand that and do that, because now what happens is that is a huge guide. Like I'll tell you, like yesterday, it was Labor Day, like I said, we had the day off, right? Well, I could have worked. I did a little work in the morning, but it was because I knew that I have my live Tuesday call the next day, today. And so what did I need to do? Well, I didn't take any clients, but what did I need to do? Well, I needed to come up with a topic. I need to create my Facebook events in my group and in my page. And post it in there, in the events. And I needed to create an email to my email community and send it out, right? That was at a minimum. I knew I needed to do that. But that structure allowed me to know I have to do that. And how am I held accountable? Well, I don't have a boss holding me accountable. But over time, what happens is that your audience holds you accountable because they expect it, right? Especially when you're on a structure and routine like that. So that enenables me to, when I've got this day off, to go like, oh, okay, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I need to do. on a day where, as an example, I actually have this Friday off because I'm going away, just taking advantage of the last parts of summer, right? And so I know on Fridays I need to make sure I get the recording ready, and in my university I need to send an email out and notify everyone in my Facebook group and my Facebook page, right? So I know I need to do that and get that all done for Thursday and set it to go out on Friday so that my work's done. But that structure allows me to do that. That's my marketing structure. So we need to be able to develop that in our business so we have that routine. So important. And if you haven't done that yet, that's something to consider moving forward. What does that look like for me? If you need any guidance on that, in terms of the specifics, you can certainly reach out and talk to me about that, and I can start helping guiding you, and we can see where it goes. But that's an avenue right there in terms of when we create a marketing plan. That's our structure. Some of my clients, I've helped them set it up using like a social platform like Meetup.com. They're creating those events, and they have one maybe every other week as an example. And so it's like that's a marketing structure around live events. So what I do for you is I want you to think about this. Regardless of any of that, obviously, like I said, that's an important piece to it. But with that being said, one of the biggest things is we want to grow our audience. And since I know the majority of people that are in my audience or listening to these calls, et cetera, are looking to grow their audience, and they're in those early stages, if you will, of growing their coaching businesses, which means growing their audience. We know that we need to have an audience in order to do anything, right? To get clients, or if you eventually sell products, et cetera, you need to have an audience. Otherwise, you don't really have a business. So in order to start building that, we need to start getting our message out there. So if you don't have anything else, the number one thing in planning this last quarter of the year is what is my plan to get my message out there? And when I say live events could be face-to-face, or they could be live events like this on the phone. It could be a webinar, a telephone class like this. It could be a Facebook Live. Those are just a couple quick examples. And calls like this and like a Facebook Live don't require anything. Meaning you can just get on. You know what I mean? And just on your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, and as long as you've downloaded the app for Facebook, you can do a Facebook Live like right now. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm on the Live Tuesday call listening to Jeff St Laurent, right? I mean, literally, you can do that right now. You can go to freeconferencecall.com, which is what I use for these live calls, and you can set up an account in minutes tops. Enter an email address and password, and you get your own access code. And you could post a call that you're doing like later today if you want. And you know what? Maybe no one attends, but you know what? You could still do that call, and you could still record it because freeconferencecall.com records it for you as well. You could download that MP3, and you know what you could do? You could do like I do, is turn it into a video, post it on YouTube, post it on your blog, right? And it starts to create content for yourself, right? But with that being said, I want you to plan a structure for that. So if you're going to do live events, right? What's my live event structure? Meetup.com, like I said, is a phenomenal example. Again, I'll reference you to a call I have in the university. Go to the search feature and just type in meetup.com, and that should pop up. I did a whole call with one of my clients that I helped do it. She's had phenomenal success. Had literally dozens of clients that have used that have created great success. It's also a great way of testing your headline, if you will, meaning who you help with what specifically. It's a great way of testing that right away before you build a website or before you do any of that other stuff to see if it has some grab, meaning are people signing up for it. One of my newer clients that I started with a couple weeks ago, we came up with a headline for her on our first call, her niche, if you will, who she helps with what specifically. And it's like she wanted to move. I'm like, great, let's go to Meetup. So she went to Meetup, used that headline as the title of her Meetup. And she did her first Meetup 4 days later, I think it was. And at that time, she already had 60 people sign up in her group, and she had 11 people register, and all 11 showed up for her first Meetup. And then the same thing happened 5 days later on Sunday when she did it again. And I was shocked because usually, if you get half the amount of people that register will actually show up. And I'm like, wow, you hit 100%. Like, that's huge, right? But that could be your next potential client, right? Like I told her, I'm like, there's no guarantees, but if you're going to get a client, like that's where it would come from, right? So that's a step, right? But then create a plan for that. So if you're gonna go to meetup.com, don't just have your first meetup. You could do that now and have your first meetup literally in a couple days from now, right? Because it's all it takes. You don't need to plan it a week out. It's not like this massive event, right? And people don't need that much time. In fact, if they know, people know what they're going to do tomorrow, the next day, the day after that, maybe this weekend. But anything further than that, they probably don't know. So unless it's a super compelling event, odds are that no one's going to register for it anyway if it's too far out. So that's why you can do one in 2 or 3 days easily, and get people to sign up and show up. And next thing you know, that's where your next client could be. But once you do that, create a routine for it. So have one every other week. Have one, just do that as a routine. Plan that out for yourself. What works for me? Where can I do it at? If you're going to be planning live events outside of Meetup, as an example, and looking for, let's say, leveraging some of your existing contacts as examples. Especially if you're not, if your niche isn't niche down and you're kind of general still, great. Well, when can I plan events? Where can I go to networking meetings? Maybe that's your biggest thing is, hey, if you aren't specific yet, getting yourself to different events like networking groups, Chamber of Commerce, BNI, Business Networking International as an example, and start exploring, getting yourself in front of people, just saying, hey, I own a seminar and coaching company, right? And go from there and see what develops in terms of that. So your plan could be, as an example, planning your networking meetings, right? So I'm going to get involved with this group, and here's an entrepreneur group I'm going to get involved in, and the whole point of me is just to go to these regularly, right? What's your regular routine where you can maybe set up live events with people, and then I want to set up an event each week or 2 a month over the next 4 months. Okay, so that gives you a goal, right? So now it's just like, okay, where do I find this? So now I can say, okay, so I'm going to make a list of all my contacts. And again, if you have a niche already, like I call your headline, helping who with what specifically, if you have that already, that's going to direct you to know, well, where do these people hang out, right? Whether it's online or offline, where do these people hang out, and who already has an audience of these people that I can start finding myself and connecting with them, and how could I potentially set up an event with them, and calling those people, whether you know them or not, and introducing yourself and saying, hey, I own a seminar and coaching company, and I'm wondering if you ever have speakers come in, or if you ever have considered having a speaker come in. Would you be open to that? I'm passionate about my message. I want to get out there and speak. I wonder if you'd be open up for a conversation about that. Or if not, who do you know that might, right? That's the language. And it's taking the approach of just being excited and passionate about what you do and what your message is. And again, if you don't know, oh my God, Jeff, but I don't really know what I speak about or who I help with yet. So maybe your plan now is, okay, I'm going to get my butt into Jeff's Selling Coaching Facebook group, and I'm going to do that visibility challenge, right? In the pinned post, it's creating 30 videos over 91 days, right? And the purpose of that would be, I'm going to create a video that averages out to like 1 every 3 days, and I'm going to do that, and maybe that's part of your structure. So over the next 90 days, I'm going to figure out what my message is, not by just thinking and pondering behind the scenes, like not getting yourself out there, but by making videos and forcing yourself to articulate something. Right? So, you see how that could be now a plan. So now you put that in there, and as hard as that might be, again, that becomes your structure, because there's value in, hey, I know I want to find out who I help. It's only going to help me with my marketing and make me more valuable the more I can target my message, right? So maybe that's part of your structure, your routine. So I'm bouncing around to a few different areas, because I know there's different people listening to this in different phases, but I want you to start thinking about this. I had one person before the call saying, hey, I've got this big event that I'm planning in January for the new year, right? So how do I focus on launching that event, but not lose focus about like what I'm doing over, let's say, the next quarter leading up to that event? And what I'd say is that for anyone in a situation where they know, oh, January, I'm going to be doing some big things because it's a new year and it's a new opportunity, Well, think about what that event is, and whatever event that you're doing, whether you're launching a product or you're hosting an event that people can go to, whether it's virtual or live, face-to-face, whatever it may be, think about everything you're doing between now and then is leading up towards building towards that event, meaning, growing your audience. So it's doing events, but thinking about specifically, if you know what you're launching, then be talking about it now, hyping it up now, pre-selling it now, building your audience now, because every new person that you get exposed to and you start to become a fan of yours now will be exposed to that event. So if you can build your audience, let's just call it a person a day as an example, right? That joins your audience through a free offer that you have, through videos that you do, or for however you're getting out there, whether it's maybe you're doing that meetup group and you're in front of whatever, 5 new people a week, all right? So times that by 4 weeks, that's 20 people a week times 4 months, right? So it's 80 new people that you're exposing yourself to that could be, again, a part of that event or could be exposed to whatever you're doing there. So think about it in that respect to whatever you have planned for then. Everything you do now builds up towards that. I have some different courses that I'm designing over the next 3 months as well around some of these topics I'm talking about now in terms of a marketing plan and a marketing structure to help different coaches with this. But I look at it as that, okay, whatever I end up doing and whenever I end up launching that stuff, in the first quarter of next year, even though that's exciting and I got to have some time set aside and focused on those pieces, I don't lose sight of, okay, what I'm doing now, everything that I do now in terms of growing my audience and things like that, from a structure that I have, it's just going to lead into making whatever those events are that much more successful. And that's what that structure allows us to do. And it's those pieces that I'm talking about here that is, I'm talking about a lot of different areas. But what I want you to do is that I want you to start, well, where am I? And this is the part that's going to be most helpful for you is, where am I right now based on my business, my job, where I'm at with my coaching journey, if you will, and my transition to full time. And what's most appropriate based on what you heard me talk about today. I tried to present it in a format in some ways where there's levels. Levels meaning it's like, hey, if you don't have your business hours set up yet, right? Then don't be talking about some of all this other stuff yet. So, okay, when are my business hours? Even if it's an hour a day or 15 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night because you got a job or whatever's going on with your kids and your family, right? So it's like, let's work in those layers and work your way up towards it. So do you have that routine? Do I have that schedule? Do I have my hours? Okay, so what am I doing in those hours? And start working your way up to those things. Think about your financial plan. How well do you know those pieces? Take any advice, if you will, or thoughts from the health plan that I talked about, and then create your structure from there. But don't try and do everything. And I'll close with this. I would say the worst thing that you could do, and I'll say it like this, the worst thing you could do would be make specific goals in terms of outcomes of results that you're looking for. What I mean by that is, here are a couple examples. By January, I'm going to have 10 coaching clients, or I want to have 10 new clients, or I'm going to grow my audience by 200 people. All right, those are a couple quick examples. I'm gonna start a Facebook group and I'm gonna have 500 people in it by that time. All right, those are specific result or outcome goals. I'm gonna create whatever $10,000 in total revenue between now and then. Maybe if you're just starting off, right, or whatever. Those are specific outcomes. And I'm saying yes, that would be the worst thing that you could do. And you might be thinking, well, isn't that what everyone tells us to do? Is make goals that are specific and measurable and whatever. And so I'm saying that's what people tell you. But the reason why I'm saying that's the worst thing you could do is because you can't guarantee those. Like, you could do whatever you're doing, but you can't guarantee that you're going to get X amount of clients or X amount of people in your audience, right? But here's what I would advise you to set goals on, is we can start to set goals on simple things like showing up at my business hours, right? So if I'm working from 11 to 3 today, because that's what I do on a Tuesday, because I get my son and I start with my workout routine, right? So on Tuesdays, I work from 11 to 3, right? So for you, if that was your routine, it's just like, I show up at work on time and I end work on time, right? That's a goal. You can do that, right? You can guarantee that will happen. Well, you can't guarantee that it will happen, but it's not out of your control. What's out of your control is saying you can get 5 new clients this month. There's no one can predict that or guarantee that. We can go off of statistics if you've done it a while and track some numbers, right? I should be able to tell you if you've done it enough that, yeah, based on X, Y, and Z, I'm getting X amount of new clients a month, but that's still, there's no guarantee that's going to happen. You could blow that number away or really fall short, right? But what you can start working on is the things that you can do in order to achieve those goals. So starting from a very minimal level and basic structure is, hey, I'm going to set my office hours and I'm going to show up and I'm going to leave when they're. That's a goal you can actually set and achieve, right? Because if you do that, that's a start. That's going to lead towards the bigger goals that we're looking for, right? I'm going to create one video every 3 days and post it in the Selling Coaching group and maybe on my Facebook page as an example. I'm going to do a Facebook Live every week on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Right? That's a goal that you can do, right? All those things are going to end up in a result. So maybe those activities, if done repeatedly, and you set a goal for that, you can measure that and do that and achieve that definitely. Then we can see what outcome are we getting of that. So, that's producing whatever, 2 new people a week. Okay, that I went 2 months and I got a brand new client, right? So now you're starting to get some results from that. If we don't like those results, if they're not enough, well, then we can start to, maybe we can do something more than that, or we can improve our ability to do that. But those are the goals that I would have you rather set versus an outcome goal like X amount of clients. But what am I going to do? So think about it along the same levels and continuum that I talked about of the components of the schedule and the different plans that we talked about for this routine, and think about where you're at and then what I can do in terms of events. So I'm gonna do 2 meetups every month on Tuesdays and Sundays every other week at this location, right? You can do that. I'm going to reach out and connect with 10 new people a day on LinkedIn as an example, right? That's a measurable result that you can do, right? And you can create, and then that can go into your structure and your plan that I'm talking about as an example in terms of, remember those 4 different areas I talked about earlier, our marketing time, our follow-up time, so forth and so on. That would be our marketing time, right? So connecting with 10 new people a day on LinkedIn as an example, if that's your platform. All right, so those are the things that I would give you kind of walking away from this as a more of a specific structure.